The screen door slammed like a gunshot in the sticky Texas heat, splintering the summer night into shards of betrayal. "You're no son of mine," Harlan growled, his voice gravel and whiskey, eyes blazing with the kind of fire that burns down homes from the inside. 14-year-old Alex froze on the sagging porch, backpack slipping from his shoulder, the world tilting as his father's words carved deeper than any knife could. He'd confessed it all in the dim glow of the kitchen lamp, the words tumbling out like stones from a crumbling dam. "Dad, I like boys. Really like them." Harlan's fork had clattered against his plate, the meatloaf untouched, and in that suspended breath, Alex saw the fracture-lined spiderweb across the man who'd taught him to throw a curveball and mend a fence. Now, here it was, the eviction notice served with a meaty fist shoving him toward the gravel driveway, where fireflies mocked the chaos with their lazy blinks. Alex stumbled backward, tears hot on his cheeks, the screen door's echo chasing him into the dark like a hound from hell. Headlights from a passing truck on Highway 71 sliced the night, illuminating the faded American flag limp on the pole, a symbol of the freedoms his father swore by, except this one, apparently. "Go on, then. Don't come crawling back," Harlan bellowed, silhouette filling the doorway like a storm cloud refusing to break. By dawn, Alex was 30 miles away, thumb out to any rig that slowed, heart pounding a rhythm of terror and fragile resolve. The first trucker, a burly guy named Roy with a Saints cap and a thermos of black coffee, didn't ask questions, just slid over and muttered, "Hop in, kid. Houston's that way." Alex curled against the door, the vinyl seat sticky under his jeans, watching the flatlands blur into possibility. He didn't know what waited in the city, only that staying meant erasure, and he was done being invisible. Houston swallowed him whole that first week, a concrete jungle of honking horns and neon promises. He crashed on the floor of a shelter in the Montrose neighborhood, the heart of the city's queer scene, where rainbow flags fluttered like defiant prayers from shotgun houses. By day, he'd sneak into the public library, poring over dog-eared paperbacks about boys who loved boys, Hemingway's stoics masking their aches, Baldwin's prophets raging against the machine. At night, he'd volunteer at a youth center called The Anchor, washing dishes for meals and trading stories with runaways who wore their scars like badges. It was there he met Javier, a lanky artist with ink-stained fingers and eyes like polished obsidian, sketching murals on the center's peeling walls. Javier was 19, a year into community college, studying graphic design on a scholarship pieced from Odd Jobs. "You got that look?" he'd said one evening, handing Alex a brush dipped in cerulean blue. "Like you've seen the devil and decided to paint him pretty anyway." Alex laughed, the sound rusty from disuse, and together they transformed a blank wall into a cascade of interlocking hands, brown, white, scarred, smooth, reaching toward a sun that looked suspiciously like hope. Their friendship bloomed in stolen moments. Late-night walks along Allen Parkway, where the bayou whispered secrets under the live oaks. Shared tacos from a truck that parked crooked on Westheimer, grease dripping onto wax paper as Javier spun tales of his abuela's brujeria back in San Antonio. Alex opened up in fragments, the ranch house, the confession, the endless highway. Javier listened without pity, just nodded and said, "My T.O. got disowned for the same. Now he runs a taqueria in Austin and sends money home like it's nothing. Blood don't always win, but it don't define you neither." By fall, the fragments had woven into something tender, unspoken. One crisp October night, after a poetry slam at the center where Alex had recited a halting verse about fireflies and fathers, Javier pulled him into an alley off Pacific Street. The air hummed with distant mariachi from a bar, and under the flicker of a street lamp, Javier's hand found Alex's, thumb tracing the lifeline like it was a map to buried treasure. "I've been waiting for you to catch up," he murmured. And then their lips met, soft, tentative, tasting of lime and possibility. It was Alex's first kiss, a spark that lit the dry tinder of his soul. And in that moment, the porch in Flatonia felt 1,000 miles further than it was. They built a life from the scraps. A one-bedroom walk-up in the Heights, walls papered with Javier's prints and Alex's salvaged books. Alex enrolled in night classes at Houston Community College, majoring in social work, driven by a fire to anchor the lost kids he'd once been. Javier's art took off, commissions rolling in for murals at local breweries and queer pride events. Weekends were for road trips, up to the piney woods for stargazing, or down to Galveston for salt-kissed sunsets, toes buried in sand as they dreamed aloud about a future unbound by old wounds. But shadows lingered. Alex's calls home dwindled to nothing after Harlan's silence turned to hang-ups, the line dead as the dust on the ranch roads. His mother, Clara, sent the occasional card, stiff apologies scrawled in her looping script. "He's praying for you, Mijo. Come home when you're ready." Alex burned them in the sink, the flames dancing like accusations. Betrayal wasn't just his father's. It was the whole damn system's. The church sermons that branded him sinner, the small-town whispers that followed him like smoke. Javier became his anchor, the one who held him through nightmares where screen doors slammed eternally. "You're not broken, Alex," he'd whisper in the dark, fingers threading through sweat-damp hair. "You're the strongest storm I know." Their love deepened into rituals. Sunday mornings with migas and strong coffee, evenings sketching each other by candlelight, bodies entwined in quiet affirmation. Not fire, but hearth. It was romantic in the American way, fierce, flawed, forged in the grit of starting from zero. Years folded like accordion pleats. Alex graduated, landed a job at a nonprofit in Austin, counseling queer youth in the shadow of the Capitol. Javier's murals dotted the city like love letters. One on 6th Street depicting intertwined silhouettes against the Bat Bridge's frenzy, another at the Bullock Museum honoring Stonewall's echoes. They bought a fixer-upper craftsman in East Austin, the kind with creaky floors and a yard begging for tomatoes. Weddings weren't legal yet, but they exchanged rings anyway, simple silver bands engraved with Siempre, slipped on during a backyard ceremony under string lights, witnessed by the anchor's ragtag family. Then came the call that cracked the idol. Clara's voice, frail over the crackle of bad connection. "Harlan's dyin'. Alex. Cancer. He wants to see you." The words hung like storm clouds over breakfast, Javier's fork pausing midair. Alex stared at his plate, the eggs congealing, memories flooding back in technicolor. The curve of his father's calloused hand teaching him to bait a hook, the roar of the old Ford during father-son hunts at dawn. Betrayal twisted anew, sharp as barbed wire. "After everything? He threw me away like trash." Javier reached across the table, his touch steady. "Maybe dying's his way of saying sorry without words. Or maybe it's just guilt. But you're the one who gets to decide if that door opens." Alex wrestled with it for weeks, pacing the porch of their bungalow, the irony bitter as mezcal. The youth he counseled urged him forward. "Confront it, or it'll haunt you forever." One raw November evening, he packed a duffel, kissed Javier goodbye under the harvest moon, and pointed the truck north toward Flatonia. The drive was a pilgrimage through memory lane, past the Whataburger in Bastrop where he'd scarfed burgers with high school buddies, over the Colorado River Bridge humming with semis. Flatonia emerged unchanged. Same grain silos like silent sentinels, same faded billboards hawking feed and faith. The ranch house squatted at the end of County Road 402, paint peeling like old skin, the flagpole bare now, wind whipping the empty socket. Clara met him at the door, her hug bone-fragile, eyes rimmed red. "He don't say much anymore," she whispered, leading him through the dim living room cluttered with medical bills and half-read Bibles. Harlan lay propped in the recliner, a husk of the giant who'd loomed over Alex's childhood. Cheeks hollow, eyes sunken, oxygen tubes snaking like a serpent. He looked up, gaze sharpening for a flicker, then away, toward the window where the plains stretched indifferent. "Sit," Clara urged, vanishing to the kitchen with a clatter of mugs. Silence thickened, broken only by the hiss of the concentrator. Alex perched on the couch, hands clasped to keep from trembling. "You look good, Dad," he said finally, voice steady as rebar. Harlan grunted, fingers twitching on the armrest. Minutes dragged, the clock ticking like a bomb. "Why'd you come?" Harlan rasped at last, not meeting his eyes. The question landed like a slap, reopening the wound. Alex leaned forward, the words he'd rehearsed dissolving into raw truth. Because I thought maybe you'd finally see me. Not the mistake you kicked out, but the man I became anyway. Harlan's jaw tightened, a cough rattling his chest. I was wrong, he muttered, so low Alex strained to hear. Bible said, abomination. But dyin' makes a man reckon. The confession cracked something in Alex, tears pricking unbidden. He thought of Javier's murals, the hands reaching. Of the kids at the anchor, piecing lives from ruins. It wasn't just the Bible, Dad. It was fear. Of what folks say at the VFW, or the pews at First Baptist. You chose that over me. Harlan's eyes met his then, watery and wrecked. Every damn day since, I see it. Your backpack in the dirt. Shoulda chased you down. Clara returned with tea, hovering like a ghost. But the dam had burst. Harlan talked in fits, regrets spilling like loose gravel. The nights he'd driven the backroads, bottle in hand, searching for absolution in the stars. The letters he'd burned, too cowardly to send. Alex listened, the boy on the porch warring with the counselor who'd learned forgiveness isn't weakness. I built a life, Dad, with a man who loves me fierce. We got a home, kids we mentor. I'm stronger for what you did, had to be. Harlan reached out, hand trembling, and Alex took it, the calluses softened by time and illness. Proud? The old man whispered, voice breaking. Alex swallowed the lump in his throat. Yeah, of who I am, not what you thought I'd be. They sat like that till dusk bled into night, the planes sighing outside, a fragile bridge forming over the chasm of years. When Alex left at dawn, Clara pressed a photo into his hand. Him at 10, gap-toothed grin beside Harlan at a rodeo, arms slung proud. He'll fight harder now, she said. And Alex believed her, the weight lifting like morning fog. Back in Austin, Javier waited on the porch, arms open. And as they held each other under the live oaks, Alex felt the circle close. Not perfect, but whole. In the end, Harlan lingered through Christmas. His last words to Alex a gruff, love ya, son, over the phone. Voice steady as the old Ford's engine. He passed in January, snow dusting the Flatonia hills like grace unearned. At the funeral, Alex stood tall beside Clara, Javier's hand warm in his, the congregation murmuring awkward condolences. He didn't preach, just shared a story of fireflies and second chances, the church echoing with quiet nods. Life roared on. Javier's gallery show in Marfa, Alex's promotion to director at the center, adoptions talked of in hushed, excited tones. The porch in Flatonia became a memory, not a monster. A reminder that strength isn't born in comfort, but forged in the fire. And in the heart of Texas, under endless skies, Alex knew. He'd returned not to conquer, but to heal. For himself, for the boy he'd been, for the father who'd finally seen. But healing wasn't linear. It looped like the Colorado River, carving canyons deeper with each bend. Back in Austin, Alex threw himself into work, the nonprofit's doors revolving with fresh faces. Kids like he'd been, eyes wide with the terror of discovery. There was Marcus, 16 and black, run from Dallas after his stepdad's belt met his coming out. Elena, a trans Latina fleeing Houston's underbelly, dreaming of stages beyond survival. Alex met them where they were, his office a sanctuary of mismatched chairs and motivational posters. You are enough, in Javier's bold script. One evening, as rain lashed the windows like impatient fingers, Marcus slumped in, hoodie shadowing his face. My mom's comin' tomorrow. Says she'll take me back if I pray it away. The words hung heavy, echoing Alex's own ghosts. He leaned forward, voice low and steady. Prayer didn't fix me, Marcus. Love did. And it's waitin' for you if you fight for it. They talked till midnight, mapping escape routes and emergency funds, the storm outside mirroring the one within. Javier sensed the pull of the past, the way Alex's laughter faltered at family mentions on TV. Thanksgiving specials with Norman Rockwell perfection. You're carryin' his weight again, he'd say, drawing Alex into the kitchen where pots simmered with pozole, steam rising like offerings. They'd dance slow to Willie Nelson on the radio, Javier's chin on Alex's shoulder, whispering, "Let me carry some, mi amor. We're a team." It was those nights that stitched the frayed edges, romance blooming in the mundane. Notes tucked in lunch bags, surprise wildflower bouquets from the Loteria stand on Congress Avenue. Yet conflict simmered beneath the surface, betrayal's embers not fully quenched. It arrived unannounced in spring, wrapped in Clara's hesitant voice on the line. "Harlan left the ranch to you, Alex. Said it was yours by right." The word stunned, a double-edged gift. 200 acres of blackland prairie. The house with its sagging porch, a legacy tainted by expulsion. Javier hooped over speakerphone. Visions of weekends riding ATVs and planting heritage tomatoes. But Alex's gut twisted. "It's blood money, Javi. For silence." He drove up alone that weekend, the truck's tires humming hymns of hesitation. Flatonia greeted him with wildflowers rioting along fences, bluebonnets nodding like old acquaintances. The ranch felt alive in Harlan's absence. Cattle lowing in the pasture, windmills creaking lazy circles. Inside, dust motes danced in sunbeams, the recliner empty, a quilt folded neat. Alex wandered the rooms, fingers tracing the banister where he'd slid as a kid, the kitchen table scarred from family suppers. In the attic, he found the burned letters or what remained. Charred edges revealing fragments of Harlan's scrawl. "Forgive, mistake, love you always." Tears came then, hot and unbidden, collapsing him to the floorboards. It was betrayal layered upon betrayal. Not just the kicking out, but the years of quiet suffering, the old man's war with himself. Alex stayed till dusk, the planes painting themselves in fire, and drove back with a decision crystallizing. Sell it, fund a scholarship at the Anchor for queer runaways. Humanistic, he thought, turning poison to purpose. Javier met him at the door with enchiladas and a beer, listening as Alex unpacked the boxes in his chest. "You're braver than you know," Javier said, pulling him close, their foreheads touching in the lamplight. That night, love making its quiet case, they made plans. Not just for the land, but for them. A commitment ceremony at Barton Springs. Rings renewed under cypress shade. Romance, in its American grit, was persistence, Alex realized, loving through the thorns. Summer brought the climax unbidden. A storm front rolling in from the Gulf. The nonprofit's annual gala, a black tie affair at the Driscoll Hotel, celebrated resilience with auctions and speeches. Alex was keynote, his talk weaving personal threads into a tapestry of hope. We don't just survive, we thrive. Because love isn't a luxury, it's the revolution. The crowd, donors in tuxes, youth in borrowed finery, leaned in, applause thundering as Javier beamed from the front row, eyes shining like stars. But midway through the reception, as champagne flutes clinked and jazz swung from the balcony, a shadow fell across the marble floors. Harlan's brother, Uncle Ray. Broad as a barn door, face etched with the same stubborn lines. Approached, suit rumpled, breath sour with bourbon. "Heard you got the ranch," Ray slurred, voice carrying over the murmur. Heads turned, whispers rippling. "Think you're hot shit now, boy? Prancin' around with that spick artist. Preachin' your perversion gospel." The room hushed, a collective intake. Alex's blood iced, the old porch slamming in his mind's eye. Javier tensed beside him, hand on Alex's arm. But this was Alex's fight. He stepped forward, voice even as prairie wind. "Uncle Ray, times change. Blood don't give you a pass on hate." Ray's face purpled, spittle flying. "Harlan roll in his grave. You ain't family. You're a disgrace." The betrayal stung fresh, kin turning venom like a snake in tall grass. Security hovered, but Alex held up a hand. "He saw me at the end. Said he was wrong. Maybe you should try reckonin' too." Ray lunged, fist half raised, but Javier stepped in, calm as a summer lake. "Easy, sir. This ain't the place or the era for that." The crowd murmured support, a young woman in sequins calling out, "Get him out!" Ray was escorted away, bluster fading into the night, but the damage lingered. A fracture in the gala's glow. Alone in a quiet alcove, Alex sagged against cool stone, Javier's arms his harbor. "It never ends, does it?" he whispered, the emotional torrent cresting. Javier cupped his face, thumbs brushing tears. "It ebbs, amor, and we're the tide that rises." They emerged to applause, Alex's resilience a beacon, the night reclaiming its magic with toasts to tomorrow. Fall deepened the romance, leaves turning the hill country to flame. They escaped to Fredericksburg for a weekend, staying in a B&B with clawfoot tubs and vineyard views. Mornings were for coffee on verandas, afternoons hiking Enchanted Rock, evenings tangled in sheets scented with lavender. Javier proposed formally there, on the granite dome under a meteor shower, ring glinting like a promise. "Marry me, Alex, not for the world, but for us." Alex's yes was a vow against the void, sealing their bond in starlight. Back home, the scholarship launched, Harlan's Legacy, 10 spots for youth rebuilding from rejection. The first recipients arrived in December, Marcus among them, eyes bright with futures unfurling. Clara visited for the holidays, tentative at first, then warming over tamales and carols, her hand lingering on Alex's. "Your dad's watchin'," she said softly, smiling. As New Year's dawned, fireworks blooming over Lady Bird Lake, Alex stood with Javier on their porch. Their porch, claimed and cherished. The past was a scar, faded but felt. The future, a road unspooling wide. In America's heartland, where queerness once meant exile, they'd carved a kingdom of quiet triumphs. Stronger, yes, but more whole. Winter's chill clung to Austin like a reluctant lover, frost etching patterns on windows that spoke of endurance. The commitment ceremony unfolded on a crisp February afternoon at Barton Springs, the pool's emerald waters lapping at limestone edges under a sky bruised with promise. Friends from the Anchor gathered, youth with fresh tattoos and wary smiles, donors in linen suits, Javier's familia from San Antonio bearing maracas and abuela's blessings. Clara came too, seated front row, her presence a bridge Alex hadn't dared build. Vows were exchanged barefoot in the shallows, water cool against ankles, words rising like mist. Alex went first, voice steady as the spring's flow. "Javi, you saw me when I was invisible, picked up my pieces and painted them gold. I promised to hold you through storms, to dance in the sun, to love you fierce as Texas wind." Javier's response cracked the air with laughter through tears. "Alex, me soul, you taught me home ain't a place. It's a heartbeat. I'll be your canvas, your anchor, your everything, till the stars burn out." Rings slid on, those same silver bands, now etched with dates, and the kiss sealed it, salt-tanged and sweet, cheers erupting like fireworks. The reception spilled into Zilker Park, picnic blankets laden with brisket sliders and tres leches, a mariachi band serenading as kids from the center cut rugs on the grass. It was romance distilled, unpolished, profound, a middle finger to the world's old scripts. But drama shadowed even joy's heels. Weeks later, as Alex pored over grant proposals in his office, a knock rattled the door. Elena, the trans youth he'd mentored, stood there, face ashen, duffel clutched like a lifeline. "They're comin' for me," she whispered, voice fracturing. "My uncle, same one who beat me before, tracked me here." Alex's heart seized, the echo of his own flight deafening. He pulled her inside, locking the door, phone already dialing crisis lines. The conflict escalated fast. Elena's uncle, a hulking figure named Tito with a rap sheet longer than 6th Street, stormed the center that afternoon, bellowing demands in the lobby. "Where's my niece? That freak ain't leavin' with you perverts." Staff scattered, youth frozen in terror, but Alex emerged from his office, Javier at his side like a shadow warrior. "Mr. Ramirez, this is a safe space. Elena's choosing her path, and it's not with you." Tito's eyes narrowed, fists balling. "You think you can steal family? I'll burn this place down." The threat hung, venomous, betrayal incarnate. Not just against Elena, but against the fragile trusts Alex had nurtured. Police arrived, sirens wailing, Tito cuffed and dragged out cursing, but the damage seeped. Elena shattered, the center's aura cracked, donors whispering of risks. That night, as sirens faded to crickets, Alex and Javier sat on the bungalow steps, Elena asleep inside under guard. Feels like Flatonia all over, Alex admitted, head in hands. The hate. It's Hydra-headed. Javier pulled him close, scent of turpentine and resolve. Then we fight smarter. Call the lawyers, rally the board. This ain't just Elena's war. It's ours. They did. Lawsuits filed for harassment. Fundraisers launched with Javier's murals as banners. Safe havens rise. The community surged. Petitions circling online. Vigils lighting Congress Avenue. Queers and allies linking arms in defiance. Climax crested at the court hearing. A sweltering May morning in Travis County. The gallery overflowed. The anchor's kids in pressed shirts. Clara unexpectedly beside Javier, her presence a quiet rebellion. Tito loomed at the defense table, lawyer spinning tales of concerned family. But Elena took the stand, voice trembling then stealing. He didn't protect me, he broke me. The anchor? That's family. Alex testified next, recounting his own exile, the words a catharsis long denied. Hate doesn't build homes. It burns them. We're here to rebuild. The judge, a silver-haired woman with eyes like discerning hawks, ruled swift. Restraining order granted, custody to a guardian ally. Cheers erupted subdued, tears flowing free. Outside, media swarmed, headlines blaring, Queer Youth Center stands against bigotry. Tito slunk away, tail between legs, but the victory tasted bittersweet. Another scar for Elena, another vigil for the lost. In the aftermath, emotions crested like floodwaters. Alex dreamed of porches and uncles, waking sweat-soaked, Javier's arms his lifeline. We're changing the story, Javier murmured one dawn, as birdsong pierced the blinds. One heart at a time. Romance rekindled in the rubble. Surprise dates at the Continental Club. Slow dances to Lucinda Williams. Javier sketching Elena's portrait as a phoenix rising. It was love's labor, humanistic in its grind, affirming not just survival but sovereignty. Summer swelled with growth. The ranch sold, proceeds seeding expansions. A Montrose satellite for Houston kids. Therapy pods funded by Harlan's legacy. Alex keynote at national conferences, his voice a clarion for reform, Javier's art accompanying. Billboards in L.A., installations in D.C. Clara visited more, baking pecan pies and sharing Harlan's hidden diaries. Pages yellowed with unspoken apologies. He loved you, Alex. Clumsy as a bull in China, but real. Betrayal's ghost lingered in quieter ways. A donor pulling funds over optics. A youth relapsing into despair. But each tested them, forging deeper bonds. One August Eve, as cicadas chorused, Javier and Alex adopted their first foster Leo. A wiry 12-year-old with a poet's soul and a stutter born of silence. Watching Leo chase fireflies in the yard, Alex felt the circle widen. The past's pain alchemized to present grace. Fall brought reflection, leaves carpeting streets in crimson confessions. At a center bonfire, stories circled. Marcus reading his first published poem. Elena debuting a spoken-word piece on rebirth. Alex spoke last, voice weaving the thread. We returned stronger not to spite the storms, but to dance in their wake. Javier's hand found his across the flames, a promise etched in ember light. Winter circled back, a gentler echo this time. Snow rare but welcome on the hill country fringes. Leo settled in like a puzzle piece long missing, his chatter filling the bungalow with questions about baseball and brujeria. Nights punctuated by bedtime tales of Harlan's hunts. Sanitized, but true to the wonder. Alex marveled at Javier's ease. The way he'd sketch superheroes with Leo's features, fostering a family not of blood, but of deliberate choice. Yet the dramatic undercurrent persisted, suspense coiling like barbed wire in spring caliche. Whispers reached Alex at a board meeting. Uncle Ray, embittered and landless after contesting the will unsuccessfully, was rallying Flatonia's old guard, VFW buddies, church deacons, against the anchor's Austin branch. Petitions circulated. Boycotts threatened. emails laced with slurs flooding inboxes. "They're calling us a cult," a staffer reported, voice quavering, "saying we're corrupting the youth." The conflict ignited publicly at a town hall in Flatonia. Alex driving up with Javier and Clara. Leo safe with a sitter. The community center buzzed hostile. Cowboy hats and crosses. Murmurs rising like dust devils as Alex took the mic. "This ain't about politics or piety," he began, voice carrying clear. "It's about kids like I was. 14, scared, seeking shelter from storms you helped brew." Ray stood then, face thunderous, jabbing a finger. "Lies. You're poisoning our town with your agenda." Chaos erupted, shouts overlapping, chairs scraping, a water glass shattering. Javier gripped Alex's arm, whispering, "Breathe, amor. We knew this." Clara rose unexpectedly, her voice slicing the din. "Harlan saw the light before he died, questioned his hate. You men? Still blind." The room stilled, shock rippling. Ray sputtered, but the tide turned. Nods from younger faces, a deacon clearing his throat in discomfort. Outside, under sodium lamps, Ray cornered them, betrayal's blade drawn verbal. "You think winning the ranch makes you king?" Harlan spinning. "Leaving it to a fairy." Alex faced him square, years growth armor thick. "He left it to redemption, uncle. And I'm cashing in. Buildin' bridges you burned." Ray's swing came wild, glancing Javier's shoulder, but security swarmed, hauling him off with warnings of charges. The night ended in Clara's kitchen, tea steaming, her hand on Alex's. "Proud of you, son." Harlan would be. The emotional swell peaked in solitude that drive home, dashboard lights carving Javier's profile in relief. "It hurts," Alex confessed, tears blurring taillights. "Family's supposed to be fortress, not frontline." Javier pulled over at a rest stop, stars wheeling overhead, and held him till the sobs ebbed. "Then we build our own, fiercer. With Leo, with the kids. Love's the ultimate defiance." They kissed slow, the cab a cocoon, romance's flame steady against the gale. Resolution unfolded humanistic, layers peeling to revelation. Ray's petition fizzled. Youth testimonies at follow-up hearings swaying hearts. Media framing it as generational reckoning. The anchor thrived, branches sprouting like live oaks after rain. Leo's adoption finalized in June. A backyard party with piñatas and promises. His new name echoing with belonging. Years blurred forward, a montage of milestones. Javier's solo exhibit at the Blanton, murals gracing pride parades from Houston to D.C. Alex's TEDx talk going viral, returning stronger. Queer resilience in red states. Clara moved to Austin, a cottage near theirs, her garden blooming with zinnias, Harlan's favorite. She shared stories unfiltered now. His hidden subscriptions to Advocate magazine, late-night tears over Alex's photos. Betrayal's final echo came soft. A letter from Ray postmarked Flatonia. Postscript to a Christmas card. "Saw the news. Harlan was right about you. Sorry don't fix nothin', but it's startin' to." Alex read it aloud to Javier and Leo by the fire, the words dissolving into ash tossed to the wind. No reply needed. Forgiveness was private, a gift to self. The ending crested romantic, under a full moon in October, 10 years to the week of their first kiss. They hiked the Barton Creek greenbelt, Leo scouting ahead with a flashlight, leaves crunching underfoot. At the swimming hole, silvered by lunar glow, Javier pulled Alex down to the bank. "Remember Houston? Alley shadows? Lime on your lips." Alex nodded, heart full. "Every day since." They renewed vows impromptu, water lapping witness, Leo giggling from the trail. "Forever's just gettin' started," Javier said. Rings catching moonlight. Alex pulled him close, the kiss a vow eternal. Dramatic in its depth, suspense resolved in embrace, emotions layered like prairie soil, rich with growth. In America's vast tapestry, where queerness once meant margins, Alex had returned not just stronger, but sovereign. The porch was memory now, a footnote in triumph. With Javier's hand in his, Leo's laughter echoing, He walked forward, human, whole, unbreakable. The stars above Flatonia winked approval, fireflies dancing eternal.